I think I struggled my whole life being myself in all situations, like not leaving a part of me somewhere. You know what I mean? Like going home to St. Louis and like being myself in totality and then coming here and being myself in totality.
This is Sad Boy Radio.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Sad Boy Radio. I'm your host, Matt, and today we got a very special guest in the building, a journalist, creative director, radio director now, if that's what you want to call it. What would you call it? An executive producer to a radio station?
Yo, I don't know. I just feel like I'm a journalist and everything just kind of comes from that.
You've written for Complex, Fader, Chicago Reader. You've helped break artists such as Saba, Smino, Omar Apollo, giving them their first national interviews. Go ahead and introduce yourself, because I'm not gonna say the last name. Go ahead, say your last
Mahadevan.
name.
It's okay. Everyone's scared. You don't need to be scared. It's just consonant vowel till the end.
Is that like a common thing you be running into, that nobody wants to say it because they're afraid of fucking it up?
Maybe. I don't even have it in my bio on Instagram or anywhere, actually.
Yeah, it's Chandra.
Yeah, it's my grandfather's.
Look, see, I'm fucking up.
It's okay. It's not American, so easy to fuck up.
So first things first, right? I hate asking people this question because it's the dumbest question and the most basic question, but your name, why Young Noodle Cup?
I was telling you that summer I met Private Sock guys. I met John Cuevas, and I had interviewed Saba, and John was managing Saba, and I came here like in the summer of 2015, and I had the opportunity to drive with Saba and hurt everybody to New York for them to watch them play at SOBs and like write about it like on some almost famous shit for the hundreds. And I did that. And I only got in the van because No Name dropped out. She was supposed to go, but then she just ended up going. And I think I just started joking. My friend used to say Noodle as like a pet name, so I just started saying like Young Noodle Cup. It was a joke though. I used to say it was my rap name, but I never, ever, ever rapped. I don't have bars, so I'm sorry.
Are you lying? Have you? I know you've tried.
I do the the Issa Rae like hype yourself up in the mirror type of rapping, but not like at all.
You've never recorded yourself?
Hell no,
bro. You're in a studio all the time. You write about music.
That's just not what I do. I write about the music. I don't write the music.
I feel like everybody at some point has tried to make a song.
I've definitely never made a song.
For real?
Yeah. I feel like you think I'm lying, but I've literally never done it.
So how did it carry over? Why do you continue to use it to this day, Young Noodle Cup?
Oh, I don't know. It's just funny. It makes no sense. It's like how something slight or search party, like it doesn't mean anything really. It just sounds,
I thought it was about to be some super introspective shit that like made us all be like, damn, what the fuck?
What could you even imagine, Young Noodle Cup?
I don't know, man. But I mean, at some point it has to tie into like your identity and who you are. If you use it for so long, I assume maybe it shows your sense of humor at least. You know what I'm saying? I think it's funny.
But it was also like when everyone was calling themselves young, so like Young Lean, Young Thug. I can't think of any other youngs. There were lots of other ones.
So let's really get into it, right? You started off writing, basically, it was food articles, right? With the Riverfront Times.
Yeah.
So what started this pivot towards the music? Why did you change from doing that?
Oh, I never wanted to write about food. It was just the way I got in. The name of my column was called The Vegilante, and I was vegetarian, so I would just review vegetarian food. That's actually so embarrassing. Actually, it was such a finesse because when I moved to New York in 2014, so I used to write for the Riverfront Times, which was in the same group as The Village Voice, which is, I don't know if you know what The Village Voice is, but it is like historic publication, like print publication in New York. They had The Voice back when like Basquiat and Andy Warhol and all them were like making, it's like it's been around, it's storied, and it's no more, which is so sad. But it was like the alt weekly of New York. So when I moved to New York, I just transferred my column there, and then I'd already been writing about music for the Riverfront Times. So when I got to the Village Voice, like I could start writing about music. So I interviewed like a lot of people. I think I interviewed Chance. This was like in 2014, 2015, so I interviewed other people. I can't remember, but
your story is all over the place, low key. I mean, you started in St. Louis. What was your actual hometown name?
I'm from St. Louis.
You're gonna make me go check the.
Why would you doubt me?
Why did they say Ladue? What? How do you
Oh,
say it?
I went to Ladue.
Oh, okay,
That's
okay,
the high
okay,
school.
okay.
Yeah.
It said Ladue, Missouri. I'm like,
That
is
is
it
like
St.
a
Louis?
municipality. Damn, you about to put me on blast.
Is it like the suburbs?
Yeah, I grew up in the county.
So it's the
We call it the
Naperville of
county.
Chicago.
Yeah, I mean, I lived in a nicer municipality, but that was like the one I went to high school in. So, I mean, I'm Indian. My mom's a lawyer. My dad's a doctor. Like, what can I say? I did something completely different.
So what was it that inspired the passion for music, right? Because throughout your life, there's a lot of different phases for music that you enjoyed. But what inspired the passion to really go into depth and start highlighting these local artists, and even not local, but these national artists who got bigger over time, but when you talk to them, they didn't have that recognition?
I don't know. I've always been a music head. Like, I've always loved all kinds of music. I didn't really, I remember like in middle school, I didn't really know what I was doing, but I made a zine, which, are you familiar with the zines? I mean, basically, like, you create a book out of paper and you like Xerox it. So you like put content in it. I mean, you didn't call it back then, but like I like took magazines and I just like collaged shit, and then I like wrote a review on like one of Radiohead's albums because I was really big into Radiohead. And I don't know. You just kind of like different thoughts, different feelings, different whatever. I didn't even know what I was doing. I was just like, this sounds cool. It was called Cutthroat. Yeah. I don't know. But I was already into music, like always. But I was a poet. So I like was the editor-in-chief of my school's literary arts magazine. And I went to school for creative writing. And I never studied journalism formally.
It'd be like that.
Yeah.
Everybody just falls into it low key.
We had a paper and stuff. I didn't write for the paper though. I don't think I did. I think I did yearbook anyway, whatever. But it was really I think it was really when I started going on Tumblr I'm like dating myself hardcore, but when I started going on Tumblr in college and like really discovering stuff, because I went to NYU and then I went to SAIC here. And like I was just on Tumblr. I mean, New York, you get exposed to shit. You come to Chicago, you get exposed to other shit, and then I moved back home to St. Louis and I started writing for I interviewed Skrillex for this like now defunct music magazine called 11 Music Magazine. And it was the worst interview ever. I don't know what the fuck I was talking about, but I did that shit.
What was so bad about it?
I mean, at this point in my life, I'm really a fan of like write what you know. I really follow that, and I didn't. I wasn't writing about shit I knew about. I was just trying to get in. I kind of don't remember like his history. Like he used to be in a band and then he stopped making music, or he took a hiatus and then he came back as like electronic act or DJ or producer. Like I didn't know how to talk about how do you produce. Like I didn't know any of that shit, So it's like I was doing my best to research and ask questions that I felt were accurate, but I was also like 22. Like I didn't know what I was talking about. I just got the opportunity. I said yes. I mean, it's not like I was paid.
EDM was like such a, I don't want to say it was such
he
a
makes
new
EDM,
thing.
right?
Yeah. EDM, I don't want to say it was such a new thing at the time, but it was, right? That's what became the hot new thing to listen to talk about. That's all that it was.
I've never really been in EDM either. So it was like that plus not really understanding like what producers do.
I don't think anybody really understood it
Yeah,
until
especially
like
then.
more recently, right?
Yeah.
Until the SoundCloud wave hits. That's when you start realizing like, oh, like producers, they matter. At what point did you realize I need to change the way that I'm writing? I have to write about what I know rather than just taking the shot.
Not for a really long time. I mean, I interviewed everybody for whoever I could interview, I interviewed them in whatever way, But I think I was just really excited. I interviewed I remember I interviewed Freddie Gibbs, but I was also interviewing I can't remember, honestly. I used to interview a lot of different kinds of artists for Riverfront Times and Village Voice because, they weren't really like a complex. Like they wrote about like other kinds of music, not just like complex writes about rap mostly or, like popular culture sort of things. So I was just doing a lot. But I think my focus was always rap.
How did you get on Tara's radar back then?
I don't know. I mean, I think for like a while I was just kind of like cutting my teeth at like writing in this way because I had always written like poetry and prose. Like that was my focus at art school, or creative writing. So it wasn't really until I moved to New York that I really got into this whole like emerging rapper sort of pocket, like interviewing Cousin Stiz and interviewing Smino and like, I don't know who else, Saba, Mick Jenkins, like Chance. I mean, Chance back then was emerging, right? Like 2014. I don't know who else. I mean, Anik Khan. Yeah, I think like it was just interesting to me. And I think the way that publications were writing about music, like there was more room to talk about emerging artists than there is now. Like mainstream sort of, or just like interviewing mainstream artists, writing about mainstream artists wasn't as much. I mean, I feel like it dominates the conversation now. And back then, because of like SoundCloud Wave was new and like it was exciting and like Pigeons and Planes was at like sort of at its peak, like people were still looking to emerging rappers, in a different way. And there was less, like, right? Like I feel like right now it's really saturated. And then once like, like the SoundCloud Wave like crescendoed and kind of like fell because of like just the like all the saturation, all of the music. And then, once like mainstream artists started putting their music on SoundCloud and it like kind of stopped being this like place of discovery, I feel like just all fell off. But I really used to sit on SoundCloud and just dig through shit for hours, And it's just, you can't do that anymore.
I always wondered how people did that, to be honest. Like,
because there wasn't as much. And also then you would go to references, like blogs were great references, like Pigeons was, I mean, I always, I sort of got, I'm sure label execs were sitting on Pigeons just like fucking refreshing the page to like figure out who was, next up type shit. Like it was just a really great time to make music, to discover music, listen to music, write about music. Like it was just a great time.
do you think that's partly because artists blow up so quick now? Like, he just sent me the article, right, about Four Bats. You know how Four Bats, like, he came, he blew up, he made his EP. Now, like, the dust
I don't even
is
know who
settled.
the fuck you're talking about.
For real?
Yeah.
Damn, crazy.
Yeah.
But in that case, right, because artists, yes, there's so many emerging artists, right? But now because of the social media, it's so easy to hit that mainstream so quick. Another one, right? Ice Spice. She blew up and it was really fast. Her rise was very fast.
Everyone still loves Ice Spice though.
But I'm not saying in a sense that like we don't care for them anymore. I'm saying in a sense that, okay, the fact that we're not writing or people aren't writing about emerging artists as much anymore is because they're blowing up so quick that you almost don't consider them emerging because they become mainstream within like 2 months.
Oh yeah, I guess so. I mean, I think there's still like emerging artists. Like Chris Patrick is probably still an emerging artist. I don't know who else. I mean, there's some people who are like haven't turned the corner necessarily. You know what I mean? Like they don't have that hit song.
It's just gonna take one song. In today's day and age, it's literally just one song and then you're good. Look at Tommy Richmond, right? Tommy's been making music for a minute.
While, yeah.
But he had the song $1 Million Baby, and everybody's talking about it's about to be song of the summer.
Yeah, well, I think everyone's also saying now that Not Like Us stole that, but But actually, also people were saying that Sexy Red song was gonna be song of the summer.
The bow bow bow. Is that how it goes?
Oh yeah, I don't know what it's called.
I don't know.
When you hear it, you know what it is.
I don't be listening to Sexy Red.
Big SCL. It's a shame.
So what was it that made you feel like it was so important to interview these artists and highlight these artists who hadn't had their big break yet?
I didn't feel like writing about Drake. That shit was boring to me, So, and I don't know. I was like really into this whole like the regionalism of rap, right? And like discovering what's going on there. Like I really love Boston rap. Cousin Stiz, Michael Christmas, OG Swagger Dick. I'm trying to think of who else. But they like have their own little Van Buren Records, Luke Bars. Dude was on that same Brent Faiyaz's album. Why can't I remember his name? But one of the Van Buren boys. But Felix, I think. I don't know. I'm just like really interested in the regionalism. Like that's why I'm interested about Chicago. Like the regionalism of the music. Like I really just like the specificity. Like when Saba raps about like being from the West Side, he'd be saying like cross streets. Like that's just like interesting to me. I don't know. To like really dig into a city and like understand what like just what goes on there. I feel like my whole time in Chicago has just been like a study of the city.
Do you think it's because it gives a better understanding of who the artist is, knowing where they came from?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think regionalism in rap rap has always been regional, but I think it's interesting when it's cities, like with the whole, SoundCloud wave and like people being able to make music from literally their homes and like put it online and people you're listening to. I mean, obviously when we were growing up, or like when I was growing up, it was like LA, it was like West Coast, East Coast. It wasn't like Cincinnati. It wasn't, like fucking Little Rock, Arkansas. Like it wasn't like, Connecticut. Like it wasn't, So like to me, and I mean Boston's this big city, but to me that's still like really interesting. You know what I mean? So to like dig into a city, like I mean even St. Louis, that's why I have a magazine, like to dig into a city and like just like how it moves, how it breathes, like Chicago's just so interesting to me for a lot of reasons, which I feel like that's similar to like why Boston's interesting to me, why St. Louis is interesting to me. I mean, I think there's just like a lot of undiscovered things.
So real quick before we hop in the search party, then what is it about Chicago that's so interesting to you?
The whole like West Side, South Side thing is interesting. Like, how people came up from during the Great Migration and just like how blues and jazz came into the city and how that's like influenced the music. I mean, even damn near like how people like on the South Side are like literally country, like they came from the South, like their accents are, Southern sounding kind of sometimes, like even St. Louis, it's like that, so it's, I mean, those things are interesting to me and like all of that influences how like the sound of Chicago, the sound of Chicago's rap, so, I don't know. And then like the two flip side of the coin, like, when Chief Keef came out and then it was like one side is Chief Keef, one side is Chance. And it's like, and it's just so interesting that the same city can like breed, so much different kind of music, but there's still like a through line, like the things you deal with in the city.
I don't know if I'll be wrong in this assessment because sometimes I feel like I talk and don't know everything, but there's also like not necessarily that intersection between the two different styles, right? Because like you said, there's the Chief Keefs and the Chances, but when have we really seen like the intersection of those two artists crossing, right? It's like they stay far away from each other, even though
I don't
they're in
think
the
that's
same
true.
city. Okay, see, like I said, I could be wrong, but where
Yeah.
have you seen that? Do you feel like?
I think like it's easy to make the separation because they do sound similar, but like they're from the same side of the city. I mean, to be honest, I don't know if they've worked together. I can't like in my Rolodex of like things in my brain, I just like can't remember. But I don't know. But like you kind of have like I feel like a OG Steve-O is like a good like combination of the two of them or something,
See, and that's what I talk about a lot, in different conversations. I think that there are artists who can do both and do it well,
Yeah.
but I don't think that we've been able to see like two artists like that come together in the same city. You
To
know
do
what I'm
what?
saying? To make a song, right? To make a song like a Chief Keef and a Chance the Rapper. From what I've seen, I could be wrong.
Honestly, I don't remember.
I could be wrong, but like you said, right, there are artists who do both and they do it well.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's reductive to separate them, like I think what the through line is with people who are making music from Chicago is that they're from Chicago. Like they deal with the same shit, you know? And I mean, this city is insanely segregated, racist, purposefully. And so, yeah, I mean, they deal with the same shit and it manifests in a different way and manifests differently in a musical way. And yeah, so I mean, it's reductive to like say that they're two sides of a coin. because I think you can draw more similarities than differences necessarily.
I feel you. So let's get into Search Party, right?
Yeah.
That's your way of highlighting your city.
Yes.
Why did you feel it necessary to talk about St. Louis and put it in literal? I'm gonna show them in a literal physical way, right?
I love a physical magazine though.
Yeah. And it's funny because when we were in LA, we talked to this guy. His name's Mike, Magazine Mike, and he started Forgotten Mag. I don't know if you've heard of it, but he was telling us, right? Magazines are such a forgotten piece of media that
it's almost like a collector's item.
Yeah, he felt it was necessary. So why did you feel like it was necessary to put it in physical?
I mean, if you can imagine, St. Louis has less than Chicago, less publications, less, just less resources, less access. I mean, it's like in Chicago, like everybody knows everybody. Everybody in St. Louis knows everybody too. But it's just like the scene is smaller, So I don't know. I mean, I grew up. I mean, like I said, like I cut my teeth on St. Louis publications. Riverfront Times is our alt weekly, and it's still there, and they still print. Thank God. 11 Music Magazine. There was a blog called Made Monarchs. There's another blog called Stereo Assault. Like I used to write for all of them, but there was like none of them were my dream publication. Like I wanted to make something like The Fader when it was heyday of The Fader, but for St. Louis. And I mean, we had a crazy year. Smino, Sexy Red, Jordan Ward, all from St. Louis. Metro Boomin's from St. Louis.
He is.
Solana, SZA was born in St. Louis. She repped St. Louis. She had the blues jersey on the cover of her album. Like I don't know. People sleep on St. Louis, and there's a lot of cool shit that's happening there. And I wanted to make a magazine about it. Because I think also when you leave where you're from, like you have to me at least, I needed to like kind of take some of the things I learned and like take them back to St. Louis. And I mean, I'm still in Chicago, but I think we wanted to make like a really sophisticated publication that is real and like really highlights what's going on. And it's not like a rap publication. It's like fashion. We have fine art in there. We do have rap. We have lifestyle. We have, like it kind of combines that classic highbrow, lowbrow arts. So, everything like in conversation with each other because I mean, everybody in that magazine knows everybody. And there's hella people in there who live in Chicago too. There's a lot of Chicago connections. But, and it's like only Black and POC, which is also, like it was also important to me. And that the first issue was funded by a grant. So shout out to Luminary.
A shout out to them.
Yeah, I don't know, like really validated me in a lot of ways as a writer and an editor. And like somebody who likes to make shit. I've made books my entire life, zines, like in art school, I took a bookmaking class. Like I just really like the physicality of it.
I want to get back to this, but I also want to take it back to the question I had in mind and completely forgot about the zines, right? Growing up, making those, what do you feel like you were trying to express through those?
I can't draw for shit, I wish, but I could write, I always was a writer since like I remember like writing and like short stories in second grade. And I was just like, yeah, fuck yeah, this is cool, So I don't know. I think it was like, when you love music that much, like, what do you do with the feeling if you're not making music? And I used to play instruments, but I never like wrote music. And it's like, well, how do you channel that feeling of like how much you fucking love something besides writing about it? I don't know. Like, I was always just good at it. So why not just write? Yeah, I don't know. I don't even know what I was on. I wasn't even like reading shit like that. I was just like, yeah, I'm just gonna like write about this Radiohead album. Like, show nobody but myself, on my mom's fucking Xerox machine. Like,
so you were putting zines together about albums?
Honestly, I don't remember what else was in that that zine, but I remember distinctly that there was a review of a Radiohead album, and this was like when I was in 8th grade. And I had probably gone to a Radiohead concert because I remember I went to a Radiohead concert that year, and I was like so hype. Yeah, they were fucking so fire to me. They were like pinnacle. Like, I don't fangirl about shit anymore, but when I was in 8th grade, I was definitely fangirling. Like, over Radiohead. I had like the weirdest taste in music.
Yeah, weren't you into like
Trip
skater
hop.
music for a
Yeah, I
little
was
bit
into
too?
punk. I was into ska. I was into trip hop. Man, I had like a huge trip hop phase. And you don't know shit about that. What do you know about trip hop?
I don't.
Exactly.
What the fuck is trip hop?
Yeah,
Do you know what
Sneaker
trip hop
Pimps,
is?
Portishead, fucking Massive Attack, Tricky, like, good shit.
What do you feel like Search Party brings that's different from other publications?
I really made it because I'm tired of like white people being gatekeepers in journalism, you know? And just like in the music industry in general. I mean, I wanted to make something beautiful. I want to make something sophisticated. I wanted to make something that, I don't know, people have never seen in St. Louis. I mean, in smaller places, it's easier to create and do dope shit, I think, because like there aren't as many people doing it, you know? Like, honestly, that's why I moved to Chicago too. I just feel like I get my foot in the door and do some cool things. And like, I know how St. Louis is, so much easier to do it in my hometown. Um, I don't know. I mean, I'm not going to say print is dead because I will never admit that. But
It's on death's door.
I don't know. I mean, like you said, like it's a collectible. Like when you make something like that, like that's like birthing a child. That's like blood, sweat, and tears in that thing.
Yeah, I
know?
see how
like,
you're looking at it. I almost
like,
want to let you
I
hold
haven't
it
even
so you
looked
could
at it in
reminisce.
so long because like I feel like, you know, when you look at your old work and like, damn, I would have done this different. That's fucking cringe. Oh, whatever, you know? But yeah, no, I know. We're like 90% done with the second issue. So
What's the second issue bringing that wasn't presented in the first one?
I think a part of it is also like going crazy with the design. Like people just not seeing that kind of shit. Like my designer and art director went crazy. Like he's just fire, you know? And it's also just like a collaboration between me, my creative director Ryan, and my art director Fonz. And like it's just, I don't know. It's just like a real dream to make a print publication. It's really hard. That's why I took it, like the first one, we did that in, I got the grant in April 2021 and we had our release party in November 2021. That's crazy.
What is that, 7 months?
It's been a year and we haven't finished the second issue. Well, it's been longer than that because we like took a break, did some other shit, trying to do other shit. Realized, let's go back to actually making the magazine. So we've been making it over the past year. But you know, everybody's more busy, you know? Everybody has a 9 to 5. Everybody's like, has a lot of side projects. Like we're all creatives. We all have our shit. I mean, Ryan's a rapper in a duo called Souls of Liberty, but he also has a full-time job. He actually works at Leo Burnett, and then he like does all these other things, like he DJs and I don't know, he does hella shit for St. Louis. He's like the king of St. Louis, low key. And then Fonz is also like a rapper. He has a podcast. You know, he has a full-time job and you know does all of his own creative projects, does freelance work, like you know. And yeah, I do hella shit.
There's a lot of movement here, right? They're from St. Louis to New York to Chicago. Then you went back to St. Louis, right?
St. Louis, New York, Chicago twice.
Chicago twice?
No, I went St. Louis, New York, Chicago twice.
Oh, so you went back and forth?
So yeah, obviously grew up in St. Louis, went to New York for 2 years, went to Chicago for 2 years, went back to St. Louis,
Gosh.
then went back to New York, then came to Chicago.
And you didn't like Chicago the first time?
I was there for school and I was just like, what am I doing? I'm gonna go home and I went home for like 2 years. And then I went to New York because I actually got an internship with Complex. This was like in 2014.
So that's how it started.
Actually, no. I mean, I was there for like 6 months. And then I got another internship somewhere else and I was like freelance writing. And then I like came to Chicago. Oh no, I heard about Chicago. No, I heard Comfort Zone, Saba's mixtape, and I read a story about him on Noisy, which was Vice. And I was like, oh, that's fire. Like, what's going on in Chicago? You know? So, yeah, but then I was here I moved here like end of 2015. And then Complex hired me again in 2018. And it was like on a whim. Like every time I did it, I was like, I'm not going to get this shit. And then I'm not even like, I didn't even know how I got the internship, honestly. I guess actually because of my portfolio. I was like, damn, I was trying to get somebody to give me, give me a recommendation. I was like, oh, I got off the strength of somebody else. But
ended up with a job.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's fine. I mean, it's a job. It's fine. It's in my field. That's cool. I know a lot of stuff about pop culture. Like I said, Rolodex.
I don't want to call you out because we're on camera. You don't seem happy about it though.
I mean, that's the thing. Everyone thinks like writing for Complex is like sick. It's fine. I mean, it's a job. I've been there for 6 years. It's a grind. It's not what I want to be doing. I get burnt out. When you write for 32 hours a week, you get burnt out. But you do what you got to do.
Mm-hmm.
It's held me down. Like, it's the most dependable job I've had.
No,
ever.
for sure.
So it's like, can I really complain? Because it's also in my field. And also, I get to write about fun. Like, I get to write about music and pop culture and entertainment. But you still got to write. You still got to do the job.
Touching on that's important because, like you said, a lot of people hear Complex. They hear all this cool shit that you're able to do and who you're working for, and they don't realize the work and the toll that it takes on you. And that's the hard part, right? Because you don't want to be ungrateful.
I'm super grateful. It's just that I want to spend my time doing other stuff, So, but I'm just not there yet. And that's okay.
So what does the perfect situation look like for you?
I mean, I already work for myself. So it's like working for myself, not having to write that much. Because I am a writer, but I'm burnt out on writing. So it's like I don't get to write for fun. I don't get to write for myself. I mean, I would love for something site in Kismet to like make money and not just do that shit.
How do you balance it all? How do you make sure you maintain your mental health in that case?
Work-life balance is fucked, my guy. But my therapist loves to tell me that. Like, okay, so whatever. I don't know what to tell you. I'm the child of immigrants, we just hustle. It's like workhorse type shit. But, also like, I don't know, I just want to get stuff done, like sleep when I'm dead type beat.
Where do you think that mentality comes from? You mentioned the immigrant parents.
My mom, my stepdad, my dad all work for themselves. So I work for myself.
They be throwing that pressure on you? Do you feel like there ever was that pressure on you?
Oh, yeah. I was supposed to go to medical school. I really wanted to go to medical school. But then my friend was like, oh, you should go to NYU and pursue writing. And I was like, you're right. I should do that.
Your friend threw it all off course.
I mean, I was going to go do like a 6-year medical program at UMKC. That would have been like death, And I was like, yeah, it's like the accelerated. You don't have to do undergrad, then whatever, medical school, I guess. I don't know, whatever. So I was like, fuck that. You don't have to twist my arm that hard. Like I was already there.
That cultural aspect is something that you said that you feel like you're this mouthpiece for everybody within that circle, right? Do you remember what I'm talking about?
That's something I said like a really long time ago. I don't feel that way anymore.
So you said whenever you're a minority doing something, you become the mouthpiece.
I don't think that's wrong. But what year is that from?
7 years ago.
I mean, I don't think you're wrong, especially 7 years ago. Like I think representation looked different. I think when I was coming up, like, I mean, social media wasn't what it is now. So I wasn't really exposed to, it's like you had to like search for shit more than you were ever exposed to stuff, So I didn't see any other Indian kids doing shit that I was doing or interested in, So sometimes I think like back then, especially when you don't see other people who look like you doing shit, then you do become the mouthpiece, because a lot of other people around you don't see people who look like you doing shit, Like when I was living in New York when Mike Brown was killed in St. Louis, and when I went to Ferguson, I didn't see any other brown people or like Indian people, like anybody who really, maybe like 1 or 2 people, And again, like St. Louis is a very segregated city, like Chicago. It's very also black and white. Like there aren't as many, like when I was growing up, there weren't as many minorities. So I wasn't really surprised not to see any Indian people, but when you grow up in like those circumstances, just like not being surrounded by anybody who has the same thoughts or feelings or like interests as you, even like your peers, then like that's how I was thinking, you know? Like, I have to be a mouthpiece for my people in this scenario. Like, growing up, like, no Indian people thought of themselves as people of color.
Did that take you a while to understand, or did you just kind of always accept that?
I mean, I didn't think it applied to me either.
So when did you start applying it to yourself?
I'm not really sure, to be honest. I mean, it just kind of felt like, I mean, obviously I'm not white, you know? But like the whole thing about, especially like a lot of Asians, is like that whole model minority, you know? So like representing yourself a certain way, like especially Indians love to align themselves with white people, you know, at least the Indians I knew. And then the whole like whitewashing of like, you come to a country, you assimilate. You're supposed to not, you know, you're supposed to adopt American customs. You're supposed to forget where you're from. You're supposed to like, if you have an accent, like, you know, try and get people to understand you. You know, my mom had an accent. I remember her telling me stories of people being like, I don't know what you're saying, you know? And yeah, I mean, I'm not white, you know? And when I started hearing people say people of color, I'm like, do I identify with that? Am I included in that group? Because if I'm not included in that group, like, what am I, you know? I mean, like, there's other terms like South Asian. So I'm South Asian. I'm Desi, which is like, if you're Pakistani, if you're Indian, if you're Bangladeshi, like you're Desi, Desi. You know, but then you get like more specific. I'm South Indian, like I'm from South India, but I'm Tamil, you know, but I speak Tamil. Like, you know, you can get more specific than that, but I think that's like with any country, right? But it's like, as a group, like, what group am I part of? I'm not black, you know, obviously. I'm like, you know, what is the other group that's like not black but not white?
And you broke it down a lot right there, because, you know, even with like Mexico, I don't know if you could break it down to.
Don't you say northern Mexican and stuff? You don't?
No.
Or it's like regional.
You got the state and what you call it, but like you broke it down to the point where like I'm speaking a whole different language from everybody else. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, there's so many languages in India. There's so many states, you know. Yeah, I mean, I was blessed to be able to go to India twice last year and see like a lot. Like, I hadn't been in a really long time, and just to see like a lot of different places, and it's it's complex, you know, and it's cool. I mean, but it's like, when you take yourself out of that, like, what am I in America? You know, like, what group am I in?
In what way did that affect the way you viewed yourself? Because you're not. It's like what they have this saying in Spanish: "Neither aquí, neither de ahí."
Like, neither this or that.
Yeah, neither here nor there. Like, I'm not either of them, because everybody will call me too American and everybody else will call me too Mexican.
Real as fuck. I mean, it's like, I would never say it's like being biracial, but being bicultural in that way, you know? And like, then I think about people who are actually biracial, and people who are like tricultural, right? Like, you're like mixed of two different places, but then you're also in America. Like, it's tough. I mean, and it's hard because, like, I don't know, there's just like a lot of expectations in certain cultures. Like, I don't know, in Indian culture, there's like a lot of expectations. I have a family who's like very well educated, very smart, very wealthy. You know, like, I mean, you could break it down even more. Like, if you go to India, there's a caste system, and we're like the highest caste, you know, like, and that's not even a flex. Like, that's just what it is. And I don't even think about that
They
shit.
still use that out there?
I mean, what is use? Like, yeah, like, I guess if you're of a certain generation, you think about that shit. I'm not really sure what like young people think about that, you know, in India, but
because isn't the caste system like whatever
it's
you're
like a
born
class
into?
system.
But it's whatever you're born into. Like, that's it. Like,
yeah, you can't like
it's a
you can't,
wrap.
like,
Yeah,
you can't be like, now I'm this caste. Yeah, so I mean, it's fucked, you know. And my therapist is Indian, and she was like, we were talking about the caste system, and it's like, it's also like having a therapist that's of your culture is so fucking next level, because there's no way I could sit there and talk to like anybody else and try to explain any of this shit. Like, when I say Indian wedding, she knows what the fuck I'm talking about. I don't have to explain myself. She's also South Indian. Like, she's goated, for real.
Shout out her.
Yeah, shout out her.
Hey, send this video to her.
I definitely am. I'll be in therapy, like, screen sharing my Instagram. So I can show her like the shit I do, you
So
know? Because
this is
don't
what
even
happened
know.
this week. This is what happened
Oh
last
yeah, I'd be like,
week.
here's my Instagram story. Okay, we're gonna narrate. No, I don't do that. But yeah, I mean, we had this whole conversation about caste, and I mean, it's really just a classist system. Like, you know, America is the same way. Like, you know, and even if everybody was brown, like, there's colorism. You know, we're always gonna find a way to like make shit classist.
Discriminate.
Yeah, just fucked humans.
So how do you feel like those expectations that come from your family have affected you in the way that you view yourself, the way that you think?
That's a long conversation.
This is why it ends up being 2 hours at some points.
No, I feel that. I wouldn't say like I just do whatever the fuck I want, but within reason. I still listen to my parents. I'm still responsible. I think like in my culture, there's this whole thing of like responsibility, and it's like Indian half of me is responsible and the American half of me is irresponsible, and I try to reconcile those two things. Of course, if I told that to my therapist, she'd be like, "That's fucked," basically, because like that's like so binary and like reductive, right? But that's just how I view myself. You know, it's like I think I struggled my whole life being myself in all situations, like not leaving a part of me somewhere. You know what I mean? Like going home to St. Louis and like being myself in totality and then coming here and being myself in totality. You know what I mean? Cause like I said, like the expectations of my family, and you want to behave a certain way and look a certain way, and you know, like I mean, dress a certain way, just like speak a certain way, you know? And then you come here and it's different. You're with your friends. Like, I don't have any family in St. Louis. I just do whatever the fuck I want. And whoever
You
the
mean
fuck
in
I
Chicago?
want. Sorry, in Chicago, yeah.
Yeah.
You know? So it's like, but I'm trying to like really just be my true authentic self in like all scenarios. But it's tough, you know? Especially when like people don't understand you or like aren't exposed to the things you're interested in, or like don't even understand what you do, even something as simple as your fucking job. And like my career is everything to me, so
What your job is expression, whether that be your own expression or somebody else's expression. And a lot of people are like, that shit don't make sense. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you know what I'm saying. Yeah. Like I have a whole podcast. I go introduce myself to somebody new. They're like, "You have a podcast?" It's not always damn, that's dope. You know, you're not always gonna get that. What part of yourself do you feel like you leave behind when you come here? Because I can assume what you leave behind when you go back home. But what do you leave behind when you come here?
I mean, I don't have any Indian clothes here. I don't go to Indian events. I don't go to temple. I don't, you know, I am just who I want to be. But and it's always felt like very separated, you know, like obviously I'm Indian in all spaces, but it's like it just like I feel like here I have to like be like I'm Indian, you know, because then everyone's just like, oh, you're Puerto Rican, which is fine, whatever. I live in a Puerto Rican neighborhood, like great. I'm Puerto Rican. I'm Mexican. I'm whatever the fuck you want to be. Like I think it's also that sort of like the ethnic ambiguity that kind of also has me fucked up sometimes, but I don't know. I think like I it's just like being Indian is just not as present in my daily life here. And it's really I'm like just really trying to like meld those two worlds, but it's still really hard, you know? Like I mean, I have nobody to speak my mother tongue with, so I have to call my mom. You know, it's just like
Why do you think that's so important though, to implement that into your daily life?
I think growing up, like there was always like one way to be Indian, you know, generally. I mean, I always was told growing up I'm like not Indian enough because of like I don't know. I was born in fucking America. Like, what do you want from me? I'm as Indian as I can be. And like, there's a lot of other circumstances that went into them saying that, and like how, like, just family shit.
Do you feel like you missed out not being able to take those yearly trips to India?
Wow, what the fuck did you read, my guy? That's crazy. Yeah, you know, that's what family shit I'm talking about. You know, my parents got divorced, and that is was uncommon in their generation. And my mom's parents passed away when my maternal grandfather died before I was born, and My maternal grandmother died when I was like 4 from cancer, and like that had us all fucked up. She was the first. I mean, damn, that's crazy. She was like the first of her brothers and sisters, and there was one brother and I don't know how many sisters, 5 sisters, and she was the first one to pass away, and that definitely fucked everything up. In addition to the divorce, because then I was estranged from my dad's side of the family, and they were all in India, so yeah, definitely. I mean, all my cousins went back every summer, stayed with their grandparents. Like, that sounds lit.
How did you see that relationship between your parents impact you as you got older?
I mean, you have an absent father. Like, I can just imagine that. And like, we also grew, like, I was in St. Louis, we didn't have any family. My mom's sister lived in New York. Um, and I mean, I did grow up around my mom's side of the family. Like, we had family functions all the time. So I'm very close with like my mother's side of the family. But I mean, it's tough, I mean, I didn't grow up around any Indian kids. I was like one of 4 in my elementary school, and like the other 3, one was my brother, and the other 2 were boys, and none of them were in my grade. So like, you don't look like anybody else. Your parents are divorced. Just like a lot of interesting.
A lot of self-discovery that you have to do.
It's just like forced self-discovery. It's not like I'm not trying to sit here and be like I was a latchkey kid and I didn't like grow up like, without stuff. Like, I wasn't wanting for anything. But I mean, those circumstances aren't easy.
Do you feel like it added a pressure to you that now you have to be successful in anything that you were doing at the time?
No, I was always different. I was always doing some other shit.
You're the outcast?
Yeah, I was definitely the black sheep. Like, if my mom was a black sheep, because funnily enough, like, like I said, like, people of her like, divorce in India was not common then. There's only one other person in my mom's generation, my family, who's divorced. And she was already the black sheep. She did that. She went back to law school when we were in middle school. She's the GOAT. She went back to law school because she was a lawyer in India. Obviously, that doesn't transfer here. She came here. She got her MBA at Washington University because she's fucking smart. And then my dad made her quit her job because men. And then when we were in middle school, she went back to law school, and now she has her own practice, and she makes hella money because she's the GOAT. She's like the OG head bitch in charge. Sorry, HBIC. Yeah. And she was a black sheep for doing all that shit.
She was the black sheep for being successful?
Well, for being a lawyer. Like, that's just like, it's just like not normal shit. Like, my mother is like, literally, I'm like her mini me, I feel like, but I just also went left,
You
like,
went the other direction.
Yeah, like, and I've done a lot of things to like appease her in the way, like, I'm still doing what I want, but I'm still getting money. I'm like still getting to the bag, but it's just the way I'm gonna just go this way, I just have to let her know that I'm getting money. That's the way she's like, okay, cool, do you,
Otherwise, she's gonna worry.
Oh, she's like, oh, you need to get a full-time job. Oh, you need to do this. Oh, she used to be on that shit for so long. And, I mean, it's kind of like I've had to beat her over the head, not literally, but, with the things I'm doing and want to do, and like, be like, get used to it. I'm doing this shit, and I mean, there's a lot of things she didn't support me in. And I just did it anyway, because even though I struggle with like being those 2 halves of me, I'm still just unapologetically myself.
Do you feel like you could be stubborn in a sense?
I do like seek her advice and take her advice and like all that kind of stuff, but I don't know. I guess I never really thought of myself as stubborn. I just, ambitious.
Are you always gonna do things your way? I feel like that, like, I'm an Aries, so I probably do have that problem. Like, I do want people's advice. I want people's thoughts. I would like to take them all the time, but at the end of the day, like, I'm probably gonna do what I think is best.
Is that being stubborn?
I guess. That's what people say.
I mean, I don't ask for everybody's advice. I ask for my mom's advice on certain things. I mean, I have like trusted advisors, but uh yeah, I mean, I think I could be swayed to do other things or approach things in a different way. But I think the end goal is always going to be the thing I want to do. It's just like the approach. How do I get there? Do you think there's a better path to achieving this thing? You know. But yeah, I mean, I think in certain situations I'd be like, "Oh, that's cute. I'm gonna still do this, though."
So in those times where your mom didn't necessarily believe in the vision, what was it that kept you going? Why did you continue on this journey?
I still knew who I was, who I am. I mean, like, she didn't want me to go to NYU. I went. She was like, cool. She didn't want me to go to SAIC. I went. She's like, okay, cool. Like, after I got there. But I don't know. It just like, I just want to be myself. I feel like because my culture is so like prescribed path, do this to get here, to do this. Like, having the white picket fence and like the fucking golden retriever, whatever the fuck people want to do, like, that's never been the end goal. Like, of course, love and like family and like all that shit is super important to me, but I don't know. I never really think about like, oh, I want to leave a legacy. I'm just ambitious. I just want to like do some cool shit and in the process make money. You know what I mean? Like, I just like don't want to do shit the regular way because that's boring. I want to live a life that is not boring and not regular and not basic. And also just, I don't know. I mean, I come from like I said, my family's really well educated, smart, intelligent, intellectual. And I just took all those same qualities because I think I have them too. But I just took them over here, like they're all like engineers and lawyers and doctors and businessmen and whatever the fuck. Like,
What does that end goal look like for you then?
I just want to like not worry about stuff, And I want all my friends to not worry. And I want all of us to get bands together and not worry and take fucking private jets to Paris and shit. Like, that's all I want.
I don't think about money that much. I wish I did because I think I would have a little bit more, but
I just think like the kind of family I have, like, you just not like that responsibility, that like financial acumen, that like all of that shit is like drilled into my head daily, So, and I'm like very lucky with a lot. I mean, like, I'm like, my parents are, have good jobs, affluent. I'm not sitting here saying that's my money. Like, I make my own money, but I am very lucky. I'm very privileged. I remember all of those things. And I try and take all the things I learn and like help my friends.
do you feel like it helped create a healthy relationship with money though?
No, not at all. Who has a healthy relationship with money?
I don't know, man.
I feel like financial anxiety is just like you live in America, So
I don't know. I mean, I don't know what the definition of a healthy relationship with money looks
you
like.
ask me.
Shit. I don't know. Maybe you know what that looks like.
I mean, I don't know. What's like, it's hard because it's like, I was just listening to NPR today and they were like, there's more credit card debt than ever before type shit because interest rates are high and, everything's more expensive and people are living with that outside their means and they can't pay their actual bills. So then they use it's like, you're not set up for success here. Maybe not in the world. I don't know how other countries work, but the credit score system is not that old. I think it was like started around the time that I was born. So it's not that old. Yeah, that's just not that old. We should fact check that shit, but it's definitely from the 80s. So that shit's just fucked. It's just another way to control us.
And with you taking those smarts over to the artistic side, you've been able to not only start Search Party, not only been able to write for Complex, all these other amazing outlets. You were able to, shit, I don't even know where I want to go. Apple Music Summit or the fucking something slight, but we'll go with, you recently started a year ago. your own podcast, your own radio show. My bad. Your own radio show. Some slight on Kismet Radio. So establish the difference between those two real quick.
Okay, so Kismet Radio is the digital radio station, and Something Slight is the flagship show. I think like people don't really understand that. So this year I'm like really working towards making that clear. And like I'm really excited because we're rolling out a bunch of new shows. So it's going to be a mix of like talk shows and DJ mix shows.
What are these other shows you're looking to roll out?
It's going to be like a handful of DJ mix shows. Mars, aka Police State, already has a mix show. So he's done a few. We're just like trying to get the calendar together and like just be like really consistent. We're rolling out a new talk show, which I'm not going to announce details yet, but we shot the episode last week. That was super fun. I loved it. And then we're going to do limited series over the summer. That's talk. And then, yeah, a bunch of other like DJ mix shows that are going to be kind of like either like pure DJ mix, like how Mars is, or maybe like a mix of like talking and like, you know, whatever, talking through songs or just a mix or, you know, I don't know. I have like one of my homies is like a drummer and also DJ. So like maybe a mix of two things. So just kind of like, I don't know. I think like a lot of my work, like you're talking about the summit, like a lot of my work also hinges on education, access, resources, you know, and storytelling, you know? So, and just like collaboration, like as a writer, you don't really get to collaborate with people. It's a very lone craft. Like I literally be in my house behind my computer, you know?
Sounds rough.
Yeah. And like with the magazine, I got to collaborate with Kismet, with Something Slight. I get to collaborate with my friends, like Private Stock. Like those are my like day ones in Chicago. Like that's so fire to me. That's why I need to be Kismet, because it's like faded, you know? Like when I did the corner store for WGN, tried it, hated it. I was like, fuck this, I'm gonna go back to writing. And then just like, you know, I was just like, hey, let's do this thing. And they were down, and they've been down for a fucking year. And I can't believe it's been a year.
Taking that leap is the first step, and just starting it, right? Because a lot of people say, I'm gonna do this. Never happens.
I'm gonna do it. That's like, if anybody's gonna do a thing, it's me. I'm gonna create more work for myself and for everybody else.
You're gonna make yourself suffer more?
Hey, listen, life is fucking boring. I could go have a 9-to-5. I could go get a little job, have my little benefits, you know, just like go home at 5 p.m., sit on the couch. Who wants to do that shit? I don't want to do that shit. Life is about suffering in lots of different ways. At least like make some art out of it. Shit.
So why expand? What makes it so important to the growth and what you want to present? What is it you're trying to present?
I've been here for a while now. It's been almost 10 years. It's been 8.5. And like I've met a lot of really great people who know a lot of shit. You know, I know, like, I mean, like people are natural storytellers. People like need the opportunity to tell their story, to tell other people's stories. You don't always have to approach it from a journalistic point of view, you know? And I think like encouraging that in people and encouraging people to share their knowledge, you know, like I feel like all of the people I met when I first came here are now veterans, they're OGs, like they've been around for years, like obviously longer than I've been around. But like at that point, like the point I met them to now, it's like been 10 years almost, you know? So they really know their shit. And it's about sharing your knowledge, sharing stories, like giving people opportunities, you know? And I'm also really interested in having like the music industry and nightlife in conversation with each other, you know? So, and I've been interviewing a lot of DJs, which I think is really fun because honestly, at this point in my life, I love going seeing a DJ more than anything, more than going to concerts. Like, I just love how, you know, it's all different kinds of music. They're really like, you know, they're like moving the crowd, you know, and just so interesting to me. DJing is just so interesting to me that way, in like a way that I'm like watching people, like I'm a people watcher. So just like watching the DJ, watching the crowd, like just like all that kind of like interaction, you know? And, you know, I feel like DJs don't really get interviewed a lot. and a lot of them have interesting stories.
DJs are like these prolific figures that everybody sees and that everybody sees and knows, but nobody knows anything really about them other than what they present, right? Like you see a King Inez, and King Inez is this now she's this like prolific Y2K all women figure. Like, and when I interviewed her, we talked about toxic relationships, like something I would have never thought about from her, right? So I think that it was great showing that side. We actually got something set up with Drip. You know Drip? DJ Drip? No. Okay. Well, like when I interviewed him 2 years ago, he was talking about how he had a kid, then found out it wasn't his kid. Now he wants to come back and talk about, mental health and nightlife and, being on a fitness journey. Like, it's just that shit that you don't see from them. So I think it's an amazing way to, connect and show their story.
Again, like connecting music, the music industry and nightlife. And I don't know, just having them in conversation with each other, having more people in conversation with each other, having more conversation, like creating synergy between studios, building community, but in a different way, in a different space, taking not the knowledge and resources and access I have and like extending that to people.
It's a unique way to connect everybody. And I think that's the cool part.
Sometimes you sit there and you're like, am I doing anything special?
Oh.
You know what I mean though?
Like you feel like
the
that?
imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
You're like, am I doing anything for real? Or am I just literally like not?
Before we close out, I want to touch on this Apple Music Summit because you said it was big for Chicago.
Yeah.
What was that experience like?
It was fire. I mean, like I said, like I came here to do cool shit and I got to do some cool stuff.
So explain what an Apple Music Summit is for people who don't know.
Oh, okay. Basically, in 2017, they opened the new Apple store on Michigan Avenue and they were doing like cultural programming. So in 2018, I interviewed Saba at the store for Care For Me. I think Care For Me came out that year. And that was cool. I mean, they used to do, I don't know if you ever went to any of those, but they would do a lot of like Q&As and whatever. Like they did a premiere of one of his videos from the album. And then after that, I just like met the people, Nora and Kate, who used to work there or used to like run the programming. And I pitched like a month-long music summit that was already like I curated like daily events for a month. And that was in like May 2018. And then we did it in September 2018. So we literally did the whole thing in like 2 months. Like curate, like it was a lot of like the things I wanted to do, but like tailoring it to the way that they did programming. But it was like labs, workshops, panels. Man, that shit was stacked. Like we had the first year we had Andrew Barber, Chris Classic, who else did we have?
Elton.
King Marie. Was Elton the first year?
Elton, The Mind.
Elton mixed it, The Mind.
Femme.
Yeah, like that shit was Joey Perp, I think. Maybe that was the second year.
Maybe.
I mean, we had Omar Apollo the second year, Joey Perp. I don't know, that shit was lit. Those were good times.
So what made you stop it?
The pandemic. I mean, we did 2018, 2019, then we were going to do in 2020 and then the pandemic. So, and then, they kind of changed directions, but man, working with Apple was so cool. Such a flex. I met Ebro, I met Common.
I would shed a tear if I met Ebro low key.
Yeah, he's cool. I met I don't remember, Carly Hustle. Common's crazy. Common's wild because I think he's sober. So like when he looks at you, he's like looking into your soul damn near. Like that is like the steadiest, most piercing gaze, from a human.
It scared you or what?
It's a little overwhelming.
A little bit. I appreciate you coming through.
Yeah,
I
sure.
appreciate you sharing your story and, letting us tell it in our way.
June 13th, we have our year anniversary show for Something Slight and Kismet at Humboldt Jungle. Flyers up on my Instagram, Young Noodle Cup. We're having Solo Sam and Mute. I'm interviewing them and then they're going to perform and Police State is DJing and it's gonna be cool. I haven't talked in front of people, live people, in 2 years. Actually, when I interviewed Saba, that's the most people I ever talked in front of. That shit was packed the fuck out, and I was like, it was at least 100 people. But like the Apple store is like the balcony, and that shit was packed out. I was like,
Little stage fright.
yeah, I was like, I'm a writer, y'all. I don't be doing this shit.
Make sure you guys go ahead, check out the event. Make sure you go ahead, like, comment, and subscribe. I'm not going to attempt to say the last name, so check out Young Noodle Cup. Sad Boys for real. Peace out.
This is Sad Boy Radio.